Robert, squad-wise, first of all, you've got a few bodies back. Does it feel like a bit of a luxury?
Oh, it's been nice this week. We've had some training. We've had some bodies to actually train with, so it's not just been wrapping up in cotton wool. Because probably one of the most difficult things has been the last couple of weeks is we haven't trained. We just haven't trained because we've had short turnarounds, little bits of, and that many injuries and people coming back. So this week we've actually had bodies on the field. They haven't been able to train properly because they're coming back from, like, 3 of them were coming back from head knocks, so they could put a pink bib on, actually be a body and actually do the passing and the catching, but they couldn't actually get involved in any of the contact stuff. So even though I've had people on board, more bodies on board this week, it's been a luxury to actually get a little bit of training in, and I think it's going to be the same next week. We don't have many days next week, but after that I think we've got a few Saturdays and Sunday games where we can actually get some real training in and actually implement some stuff that I want to implement, really.
I don't think Ash Golding's in the 21, is he? Did he pick up a knock? I did the game last week, I just can't remember. Did he pick up a knock last week?
He's been injured for 3 weeks.
So it's with his back?
Yeah, so in the league game, he's gallantly put his best foot forward and put his hand up for the team, but in the league fixture, when we had no men to go back on with 13 minutes to go, and we picked up all them them injuries to Greeny's obviously out for a year, and Wilson's out for a year, and in the warm-up to that game, the physios came up to me and went, Ash can't play. He's struggling to bend down. He ended up playing about 50 minutes for me in that game, so he did the right thing for the team, but it's been one of those the last few weeks, because we've had very few people to pick from. I've just had to play him, and he's been getting injections and he's not been training all week. We're wrapping him in cotton wool and rolling him out for the games, really. So the plan has always been, whenever we can get a few bodies back, he's going to be rested, just to give him an opportunity to get his back right. So yeah, that's basically. We've thankfully got a few men back this week, so yeah, he's going to have a well-deserved rest.
I just wondered whether he'd had enough of playing in the front row or not.
No, I think he's been good in there as well. I think he's been quite good in the middle. He's
really good, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's strong. He's a good defender. He's strong. He's got a good carry of the ball, and he can pass a little bit as well. So I've always said that, really, he won't be bad as a sort of middle loose type of role.
On the subject of bodies, obviously it's the transfer deadline on Friday. What sort of business might be done over your way?
Yeah, that's in the hands of the club at the moment, if I'm honest. There's been a few where, there's been a fair few discussions about trying to bring players in and try to manipulate the squad a little bit, but yeah, it's been down at the club at this moment in time. I'm not sure what's going on. Is
there much out there?
There's been a couple of possibilities and a few options, and we're sort of scouring the market. And there's been one or two ones that have come up. As I said before, you look at us squad at the moment, and probably like there's a lot of teams that are in the same position as us. We're not the only ones. But you look at our sort of starting thing. When you lose Yatesy, when you lose Swifty, when you lose Isan, when you lose Clooney now, when you lose Murchie, they're not only in your 17, they're in your starting 13. There's 5 that I named just off the top of my head, and then there's other ones that probably would be in the 17 that are missing. And your international forward in Wilson and Greene. We are decimated really in our starting 17. It'd be nice to bring some in, but I've been leaving that. I've been throwing some names at the club, and hopefully, I don't know, we'll find out very shortish whether they come in or not.
The other side of the coin, have you had anyone knocking on your door asking for some of your guys?
A lot, yeah. Yeah, there's been a fair few coaches that have actually been on the phone saying, we're down on troops. There's a lot of injuries. There seems to be a lot of injuries this year. I don't know what it is. But everyone's sort of scrambling around for the same players, if I'm honest. And unfortunately for us, with all the things that have gone on, I think if you like, for example, Warrington have been really smart. They did the dealings with Yatesy probably 5 weeks ago. Long before Water had even gone. They'd obviously had Bateman in the pipeline. They've been really smart in what they've done. But I think if you didn't get on the front foot, and with everything that's been going on, if you don't get on the front foot, everyone's scrambling around for the same players, unfortunately.
You mentioned Murchie. Has he got a chance of featuring before the end of the season, or is he another one that might be done?
No, it looks like he's done pretty much. That's what I'm saying. Wilson, Murchie, Greenwood, Isan, Swift there. That's off the top of my head. All done for the year. Potentially there might be one or two that might get the last game of the season, but yeah, to rush them back in the last game of the season, it'd be a rush to get them in, even if they did play. But it looks like all them are out for the year. So yeah, I've said it in previous weeks, we're down to the bare bones. I don't think anyone really believe me, but we are genuinely down to the bare bones.
I think we believe you now. Now you've said it, and like you say, it'd be a rush to it'd be a gamble to play any of them for the last couple of games, wouldn't it?
It would. Well, it's going to be a push where the physios are doing their best to get them through the rehab and try to get them back to the best that they can be. And all there's a little bit of a dictatorship on where we are regarding the league as well. Do you know what I mean? If there's stuff to play for, then rushing them back might be a little bit of a risk. But if we deem that risk as worth it, but if it's not worth it, we don't want to cause any long-term problems for them players as well. You don't want to push them into pre-season then, and it rolls into pre-season. You'd rather play some of the young lads and give them an opportunity and see if they can play at this level.
So the Sam Lassoni incident has been much talked about, hasn't it? And he didn't pick up a ban. Did that surprise you?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I think the season's really gone pretty much as every other season, hasn't it? Let's be honest. For the first 4 weeks, it gets ruled, and then all of a sudden, everyone finds their feet a little bit, and it finds itself out. If I think at the beginning of the year, it'd be a different matter, but I think there's got to be a little bit of common sense in the way we run the sport. It's a contact sport at the end of the day. We don't want people, we spoke previous before I went on there about the Josh Jones situation. We don't want that happening to anyone. We've got a duty of care to look after players, but they've also got to be a little bit of common sense. Is a contact sport as well, and I watch the games. I love the contact, even though we're a smaller body. I like the big hits, the contact. When Vegas comes around and they start showcasing that to the Americans, they show the big hits. That's what they show. So we want to keep that part of the game. But yeah, I think he's been very lucky this week, if I'm honest.
And Ollie Russell's won a lot of plaudits, and quite rightfully so. Going public saying he was never going to try and milk that sort of incident, and he could have done, but he didn't. Is he okay after it?
He seems all right, yeah, he seems fine. I said before, he comes from good stock. His dad's obviously a former player at Wigan and Oldham and Cass, and they've brought him up to a little bit of old school. Reminds me of an old school player, does Russ. He's tough. He likes to get stuck in. He loves the physical side of the game, even though he's only small. So I think it was great from him. Look, if he stays down in that game, I genuinely think we have a penalty. I think potentially they play with 12 men.
More than that.
I think they play with 12 men, and we have an opportunity. They scored that try. It's still 12-6, and it changes the game. And you've seen it this year where players stay down and milk a penalty and manage to get the team rolling on the front foot because of it. Do I want that? Do I want to encourage that with my players? Do I? I want the game to be as pure as it can for as long as it can. I don't want it turned into other sports where they milk penalties and go down. I think, all credit to Russ. He took a whack, he got up and played on it. I don't think it's Russ's duty to get the penalty. I think it's the refs. I've said before that once the game goes into, I understood back in the day when they used to miss stuff when it went on Sky. You've got fourth officials now watching it back on replays in slow motion. I think they should have picked it up, not the player.
And he'll make if he plays, Ollie Russell, he'll make his 100th career appearance. Were you aware of that milestone? Yeah,
it's a good achievement from Russ. It's a good achievement. He's been in and out really at the Giants. He's probably never been the starting seven. So to play that many games is a good accolade for him really, and he's turned into a great player.
So you just mentioned Josh Jones, Robbo, and he's gone public today with his diagnosis of stage 2 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is CTE. How much sympathy have you got with him? Someone who took a lot of head knocks yourself in your career. your heart must go out to him.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think I probably have had the most head knocks in Super League. I just don't believe anyone would have more than me. So I understand the worries and the fears. You know, in that sort of final year of my career, my wife, the hip eventually stopped me. You know, when I had the hip replacement, that's what took me out of the game. But my wife, for about 6 months before, were kind of wanting me to throw the towel in regarding the head knocks. You know, when I was coming home and I forgot where I lived once, and once I forgot that she'd just give birth to Leo, my eldest, and in the middle of the game I'd forgot I'd had him. It was only when I got home I remembered I had him. So yeah, look, I understand this, and that's what I was saying before about the way that we're adjudicating head knocks and contact to the head this year. Then there's got to be a duty of care to the player. Of course there has. The way that we're moving forward with the game, there's got to be a duty of care, but we also want to keep the physical side, want to keep the tough stuff in the game, because that's why people watch the game. But yeah, fingers crossed for him. Look, I think if you looked in the vast majority of rugby league players, ex-rugby league players, I think if you actually sat them down and studied them and studied the brain, I think the vast majority would have something in there. You just hope that it's nothing too severe that's ever going to affect anyone's life after rugby.
And obviously we now know why he was unavailable for selection at Huddersfield for so long. As a coaching group, were you sort of fearing the worst for him as that?
You're always fearing the worst when anybody, you know, sort of starts saying they've got them symptoms. One thing I can say about the Giants is the medical team and the people above us, the CEO, the board, they are really, really supportive when it comes to stuff like that. You know, we have never pushed a player to play when they don't need to play. We as coaches and staff have never forced them on the field to train when they don't need to train. The protocols in place are second to none. They instantly we stand them down, they go to a specialist. Everything that can be asked is done thoroughly and professionally, and it's probably, you know, the Giants, especially in these last few years, have been great.
We wish Josh all the best, obviously. Let's just move on to the game. What are you expecting from Wigan after they've lost their last two?
Yeah, I think they're going to come out all guns blazing. Yeah, it's sort of uncharted territory really for Wigan. They very rarely lose two on the trot. You know, when they do lose, they don't back it up with another loss. I think they're gonna come all out. You know what? Even that Warrington game, I went over to watch the Warrington game, and there were periods in that game where they were really physical and they got stuck into Warrington. There were just moments where it relieved the pressure off Warrington, and Warrington managed to march down the end of the field, but they were still physical, they still played tough in periods. And I think it makes a difference when they get some, you know, they obviously lost the 9 in Brad O'Neill. They're going to have Cruz leaning back. I think they've got Kieran back in the centre, or potentially could play half, and then you've got Jai Field, and I think somebody showed a stat in the middle of the game if Bevan French and Jai Field don't play the start, when they do play, it's pretty high that they win. So they've got some good players back on board that are going to ask a lot of questions of us.
Whenever you go back there, Robert, does it take you back to the day when that fresh-faced 17-year-old made his Super League debut?
Yeah, it does a little bit. Somebody asked me how I'm doing commentary for the BBC at the Wigan Warrington game, and he sort of asked that same question. He does, yeah. There's some very happy memories. You know, I signed there as a little bit different back in there. No scholarships. I signed there at 11-year-old, which is unheard of to sign at that age, but it was more like a scholarship. I went over there at 15 when I left school. Moved in with a lovely family that looked after me, and spent 2 years in the academy and then 3 years in the first team. And yeah, look, it was some of the best times of my life, moving away from Halifax by myself into the big wide world, actually experiencing, you know, it's an unbelievable club, is Wigan. They've always been great to me. You know, probably one of the main things that I remember is, it's probably not when I first started, it's when I finished, and they didn't know we were going over, and John Bateman's granddad's a Siddle bloke. So I went over with some of the old Siddle boys just to watch a game. Wigan didn't even know I was going to be there at the game. It was just after I tired, about a month after I tired, and somebody must have clocked me in the bar. I don't know how they did it, but within within half an hour, somebody'd gone and got a shirt, got Robinson when first number printed on the back, and got it printed on the front, my heritage number, my Wigan heritage number, and presented to me in the bar upstairs before the game. And I thought, you know, it says a lot about the club. I know Rad's, the way that he runs the club, he's a champion bloke. He's Chris Radlinski, and he runs the club great. But yeah, that's probably one of the memories that I have when I go back, is just how they treated me, not even knowing I was going to be there, and presenting me the shirt. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for Wigan and what a club it is, and running in a great way.